Teching spinning top tumble. Not a smart idea. Give me a click. Okay. So, hey everybody, how you doing? I thought I would end out the month of November with a bombastic intro. Yes, I'm using that word way more often now. Okay. How did we all do on NNN? How did we all do on that? I failed after about 2 hours into it, but if you managed to succeed, I think if you actually did manage to succeed throughout the entire month of November, don't you qualify as like the god emperor of our entire species at this point? So I shall now crown you. I will be part of the coronation ceremony. I'll be there. But no, yeah, it's great. And out the month, I thought great way to do it would be with our boy Usopp here. And as we talked about Zoro's future in the story and Nami's future in the story, let's take a look at Usopp here. I'm actually really curious about Usopp. I think his is one of the more interesting ones. Luffy's is obviously really interesting too. So is Zoro's, but I think Usopp's is also really up there. I'm actually really curious. Let me know how you feel about this in the comments below. I'm just going to open it up with this. How do you feel about Usopp meeting up with Sogeking again? All right, now listen, I know there's a really prevalent theory in the community right now that Usopp and Sogeking are the same person. Now, I made a whole video last year debunking that. So, but there's still people that think it, and it's really annoying. But, you know, it was very clearly stated that Sogeking and Usopp were, like, really close friends. They knew each other, right? And, of course, Sogeking is from Sniper Island, and Sniper Island is in your heart, and Usopp definitely has a heart, so that makes perfect sense right there. But, you know, we haven't seen him since the time skip, you know? So, many people have said it's because Usopp has grown so much, he no longer needs the guidance of Sogeking. But Sogeking is still out there, so I really hope they meet back up at some point, maybe at Laugh Tale. Okay, the bed was bugging me, so I had to make it all nice and neat and tidy. Okay, but no, seriously, I do have a genuine concern about this, okay? You know that little joke that Oda likes to do with Usopp's character? It hasn't happened too much lately, but back at the beginning of their journey in the Grand Line, you know, remember when Usopp, back at the East Blue, he was telling all those lies and those stories to Kaya, like, I fought against a giant goldfish, and as it happened, they actually did run into a giant goldfish. Wouldn't it be funny if Sniper Island actually really did exist somewhere in the New World? And wouldn't it also be funny if, I'm not saying he would look exactly the same as Sogeking, like with the exact same mask, but wouldn't it be funny if there was an actual Sniper King, Sogeking, in the One Piece world that Usopp were to happen to meet at some point? This is Oda we're talking about here, and he kind of made up that lie, that persona. That would be hilarious, and I could actually see Oda doing that, alright? But anyway, now let's talk about him where he's going after, you know, after the adventure. This is something that I wanted to bring up just on the ages of the Straw Hat crew, because keep in mind, like, by the time Roger discovered Laugh Tale and his crew, Roger was, like, in his 50s. He died when he was 53. That's when he was executed. So he was 52 when his journey came to an end, right? So at that point, like, you know, journeying on the sea, it takes a lot out of you, you know? And they were getting kind of up there. They were, like, middle-aged sort of, you know, characters at that point. So it made a lot of sense why Roger would be like, all right, guys, you know, we did this great grand adventure. We've been traveling the seas for several decades now. Roger apparently began his journey with Rayleigh when he was in, like, I want to say his early 20s right here. So it made sense, you know, not just from the perspective of, you know, their adventure's over, they found the greatest island in the world, Roger was sick, but just like, we're getting on in years, you know, maybe it's time to retire, that sort of thing, right? Now, of course, other pirates like Whitebeard, they stayed pirates all the way up until their 70s, right? So that makes sense there, but it made sense why they were just like, you know what, we're time to retire, you know, and move on. Luffy and the Straw Hats, you know, they're all in like their early 20s, you know, Robin is 30, Frankie's 36, Brooks getting up there, but, you know, he's a skeleton, yo-ho-ho-ho! He doesn't really have wrinkles too much. My point is, the Straw Hats are going to reach Laugh Tale, you know, probably not through another time skip. They're probably going to get there at their current ages. So, like, what happens after that? What happens after Luffy discovers Laugh Tale, they find the One Piece? You know, Luffy would still be only, like, 19 at that point. Maybe 20. Maybe if you want to stretch it to say that he'll have a birthday in, you know, between then and now, fine. But he wouldn't be that much older. I don't see us doing another time skip where it's like, Luffy doesn't get to the One Piece until he's, like, 28 or whatever. Like, it would be, like, right now when he's 19. So, or 20. So, you know, like after that happens, are the crew just gonna be like, all right, everybody, we're gonna split up here, go back home, you know, we're done, the Straw Hat Crew's done, we're disbanded officially now. So the way I see this going down is after the big adventure, they are gonna go all back home, you know, for a time. Usopp's gonna go back to see Kaya and regale her from all the adventures and have a whole new adventure with her, you know, like, and Brooke's gonna go see Laboon, Frankie's gonna go back to Water 7, maybe help Iceberg out building, like, because they were gonna refurbish Water 7 so it can actually float on the water, you know, Nami's gonna continue her map of the world, but they're not going to really be disbanded permanently. And I could totally see the Straw Hats getting back together, like, you know, after they spend a few months, maybe a year or so separated. Luffy's like, you know, hey, I hear about another crazy adventure. I hear about this weird mountain on the edge of the world. Nobody's been to it yet. And they're all like, yeah, let's go and let's, like, get the band back together. And they do this periodically, maybe over the years. They separate and then they come back together, and kind of like how they did it with the time skip. The craziest thing about the Straw Hat Crew, I mean, there's a lot of crazy things about the Straw Hat Crew. They literally have a magical talking Tanuki reindeer dog on the crew. But one of the craziest things is that the crew spent more time apart during the time skip than they actually were part of a crew. Because they were only a crew for like less than a year before the time skip happened, and then the time skip happened, and then that was 2 years, and now they're back again, so they've spent less than 2 years as an actual crew together, and yet they spent 2 years apart, and you know, they got back together perfectly fine. So I could see this dynamic working. They're friends forever, okay? Usopp, I see becoming a straight-up grand adventurer after this is all over, you know? I also heard a lot about this when I did Nami's video a few weeks ago. People mentioned Nami, you know, she just journeying the seven seas and plotting maps and just doing all that stuff. But I could definitely see that from Usopp's perspective too, right? You know, in fact, we see Usopp and Nami teaming up a few times throughout the story. You know, Usopp's the one that created the climb attack for her. We saw that moment at Punk Hazard when they were kind of uniting. It's just like, oh, we used to be the weakest members of the crew, but we're stronger now. As long as the enemy are already weakened and running away from us, we are totally going to take them on, right? So, you know, maybe Usopp and Nami could team up and travel the world as adventurers. Not pirates, adventurers. Pirates, I feel, are out there for the sole purpose of like, hey, we're gonna go and do whatever we want. We're gonna do, you know, we're gonna go here and, you know, just for the sake of having a crazy adventure. I guess adventurers and pirates are kind of the same thing. I was trying to come up with a difference here. I guess the only real difference is that you're flying a Jolly Roger and the world government's gonna declare you an enemy of, you know, the whole status quo and everything, and you're gonna get sent the Marines after you. I guess the only other difference is maybe adventurers, they obviously don't have a Jolly Roger. They would just go do their own thing, and they probably wouldn't break as many laws as much, but probably still would from time to time, right? If it's like, hey, I'm an adventurer, I want to go on this island and explore it, and the world government's like, you're not allowed to do that, and like, I'm gonna do it anyway. So, yeah, I think adventurers and pirates would be kind of the same thing, but that's what Usopp would do. I could see Usopp getting, like, a big, after he, you know, builds up his courage and his strength, and after he's been through this crazy adventure through the New World and back and all that crazy stuff, Usopp's definitely gonna get a major confidence boost from that. And as he grows and he trains more and more and more, I think he'll definitely get to the point where it's like, you know what, I am a true warrior of the sea. I'm gonna leave my cowardice behind me, you know, I'm gonna look to see where the next adventure lies. I'm going to plot a course right for it, and I'm going to head out, and I'm going to do that. Whatever it is. I could see Usopp. It would be really cool for Usopp, you know, at like age 30 to like look up big tome and like finds this big adventurer's tome or whatever and looks through it and it's like, oh, legend has it on this random island in the South Blue, there's a, you know, a sea monster, but not like a sea king, like a dragon sea monster that can like fly and stuff and whatever. Usopp's like, that sounds awesome. Let's go find that thing, you know, and let's just do it, right? So we got the SBS, the last one we had, volume 94. We got the SBS for Usopp, age 40 and 60, like Nami and Luffy and Zoro before him. So this was the most recent one, so I'm hoping in the one coming up, because volume 95 is coming out pretty soon. I think actually next week in Japan, the first week of December, it'll be coming out. Hopefully we'll get to see Robin in that one. I'm just, you know, I'm praying on that one there. But let's take a gander at this. Okay, so Usopp at age 40 and 60, he's looking kind of like a rugged adventurer. He's looking more a lot like his dad, Yasopp there. And, hey, who knows, maybe even Yasopp in his younger years. Because we haven't really seen Yasopp, like, super young. I think we see him, you know, joining up with Shanks when he was, like, around his 20s and stuff like that. Maybe a little younger. Maybe Usopp when he was a little kid, Yasopp when he was a little kid might have also been really scared of things. And he managed to get over it when he joined the Red Hair crew. And that's what Usopp's going through right now, like a rite of passage on the Straw Hat crew. But, yeah, at age 40, 40, he's like, the pirate flag, it's calling me. So this seems to imply that, yeah, he does travel a lot, but, you know, the pirate flag, I'm assuming, you know, the Straw Hat flag is what he's referring to here. It's always calling him back. You know, whenever Luffy picks up the Den Den Mushi and gives him a call, or he stops over at Syrup Village, you know, for the most part, Usopp is spending his time as a family man. He's spending time at home with Kaya. They probably have like 2.5 kids running around and everything like that. You know, and he spends time with his family for a few months, few years. But every now and then he gets the call, and it's like, sorry, honey, I need to travel the seas. At least he's probably, hopefully, going to be a better father than Yasopp was. Yasopp was kind of a shitty dad, if we're being straight up here. Kind of a crappy parent, where it's like, yeah, I have a wife, and I have a little kid on the way, but screw you guys, I'm going out to sea. You know, I want to see the giant mountains and the Grand Line and, you know, all that crazy stuff. I'm going to go do that. So bye, Usopp. Take care of your mom. In fact, you know, as far as deadbeat dads go in the world of manga, I think Yasopp might even be worse than Gene Freaks from Hunter x Hunter. At least Gene left, like, a note behind for Gon. You know, he left him like, alright, here you go. When you get old enough and you have the skills to open this box up, he has, like, a cassette tape telling him, like, alright, here's what's up, you know, if you want to find me, come and find me, I'll tell you about your mom and all stuff like that. Yasopp, to my knowledge, didn't even leave a note behind for Usopp or anything like that, because Usopp was really young when Yasopp left. You know, he was probably just a baby, really, so it would have maybe a little bit older than that, maybe like toddler age, but still way too young to really understand what's going on, like, Dad, where are you leaving, you know? Yasopp could have at least left, like, a note and given it to Banshina, his wife, and was like, when Usopp, you know, when he gets older, when he's like maybe 15, 16 years old, give him this note and that'll explain everything when he's older. I don't even think Yasopp did that. Eventually Banshina ended up getting sick and she died, and Yasopp never returned. I guess he just never found out. He didn't even really try to learn about because I feel like if he cared to learn about what was happening with his wife, he would have returned home, you know, after he found out his wife was dead. So I'm assuming Yasopp might not even know, and if he doesn't know, that means he doesn't care to know, or if he does know, it means he knew, and he's like, my wife died, my son's an orphan, basically. So Yasopp's kind of a shitty dad, you know, but hopefully Usopp won't follow along with that vicious circle. Hopefully Usopp will be like, alright, I'm gonna marry Takaya, have some kids, chill out, and spend time with them, but also it's like every now and then, hey, your dad's gonna go on an adventure, your dad's gonna go join up with his old crew and travel the seas, but I'll stay in touch. Here's a Den Den Mushi, kids, Usopp Jr., you know, here's a Den Den Mushi, I'll write to you constantly, you know, that's, I think, a little bit better from Usopp's perspective, right? Oh my god, right? Like, I understand Yasopp, you know, he's getting the call of the ocean, and he's like, it's a dangerous thing. So is joining the Marines, you know, leaving home to go, like, honey, I'm gonna go join the Marines. Oh, that's really dangerous, dear. Oh, don't worry, it's my duty. I will protect justice and all that crap. That's dangerous too, but I'm sure, like, it's the point of the matter that he's not really staying in touch with his son or his wife at all, and he made no attempt to return home after his wife was dead. And Banshina died when Usopp was like 7, okay? This is no excuse, alright? So, whatever. Anyway, so that's at age 40, you know? He's looking a little bit more grizzled, a little bit more rough. He's probably been to, maybe traveling to Elbaf back and forth to do some training with the Giants at that point. And then at age 60, he's looking older, obviously got some more gray hair, but still looking pretty badass, and he's just like, yeah, I'm starting to miss her a little bit. Alright, so then that is beginning to indicate that he's been away from home for a long time on this adventure. Like, that age 40, he's like, the adventure's calling to him, I need to leave home. And at age 60, he's like, I'm starting to miss my wife. I think I want to head back home for a little bit. So I think that's what I indicate. And it's not the same adventure, too. Like, he left when he was 40 and he didn't come back for 20 years. That's not the message I'm getting from this. The message I'm getting from this is that when Usopp feels the adventure calling, he leaves. when he starts to feel homesick and he starts missing his wife and kids, he just goes back home. You know, he has a boss in this sense. It would be Luffy, his captain, but Luffy's kind of understanding and all that stuff, so he's just like, you know, Usopp, if you want to go back home and be with your kids, go for it, it'll be fine, and if anything ever comes up, I'll let you know. And Usopp's like, thanks, bro, and they have like a little bro hug, and then Usopp goes back home. You know, I could kind of see that going on with Usopp's future, right? But yeah, just, and also going on a lot of solo adventures, or maybe teaming up with some other random members of the crew. Him and Franky have a kind of a bond going on there. I could see Usopp like, you know, I'm gonna travel over to Water 7 to meet my old friend Franky from my pirating days, and he's gonna teach me how to, you know, properly build ships and be a proper shipwright, you know, because there's, you know, I can imagine Franky would be teaching Usopp as much as he could know right now on the ship, but, you know, they don't have that much time to work with, especially that's everything that's going on with Wano, but I could see later on, after all this stuff dies down, I could see Usopp visiting Franky, and Franky's like, okay, I'll give you like a 3-year crash course in shipbuilding, you know, it's gonna be really intense, it's gonna be like the shipbuilding course from hell, Usopp. Are you ready for this super Franky course? Usopp's like, yeah, Franky, let's do this. I could see him doing that. I could see him really broadening horizons there. Usopp is a character that has such insanely high potential, but he always beats himself down, especially earlier on in the story. He feels like, you know, I'm a coward, I can't do this, but he can do this. He built the freaking Climact out of a bunch of scrap metal around the Mary. He was able to build this device that accurately manipulates the weather. And I still have no idea how he created the original Climact with, like, the cool balls coming out of it. And I'm like, how do you manage that, right? After he goes to Skypiea and discovers the dials, that's one thing. But Usopp's like, yeah, Nami, we only got about a few days until we get to Alabasta, but I'll throw something together. Okay, magical, you know, staff that can manipulate the weather and shoot out little balls of static electricity that I just threw together. You know, in this 17th century world we live in. Here you go. So yeah, and obviously his sniper skills are like top of the charts. So he's got a lot of potential here. I think his sniping skills in a lot of respects are like the one thing that Usopp always has the utmost confidence in. Like whenever he's behind his slingshot, that's when he's always confident, like, I'm going to hit the mark, I'm gonna do it, because I know how awesome I am in this one respect. But if he just viewed his whole life in the way that he views his sniping abilities, I think he'll go way further, okay? So then let's take a look at the dimension where things don't quite go as well. And they both kind of say the same basic thing. It's kind of a play, it's kind of a joke on the thing he already says in the story, where whenever someone goes up to Usopp and be like, whoa, you're a member of the Straw Hat Pirates? Usopp would lie, and he'll be like, yeah, in fact, I'm the one that taught Straw Hat Luffy all of his techniques. You know, Luffy wouldn't be able to stretch as much if it wasn't for me. In fact, Gear 4th, you know, Snake Man, you know, Bound Man, Tank Man, that was all my idea. Usopp does that kind of stuff, right? So in the future where things don't go as well, at age 40, he's like, Luffy, I taught him everything he knows. And he's looking a little bit scraggly there, but he's still got his headphones, I guess. They're not really headphones. What are these things called? I guess just earmuffs, I suppose, but yeah. He wears them often, and he can always hear people, so interesting. I know they're like, you know, there for his like visors, for his like goggles and everything, but yeah. And then the other thing he's got at age 60, he's looking really rough here. He's like, Zoro? Yeah. I taught him everything he knows. So, I've said this in the SBS video, but I find it really, like, age 60 Usopp in this bad dimension, he's like, a crazy homeless man. He's a homeless man that life has been really, really unkind to him. He's not, like, completely insane yet. He's not like the kind of insane where he's gonna rip off all his clothes and run through the town square like, hear ye, hear ye! You know, he's not that crazy yet, but he's getting there. He cracked a little bit, so he just starts believing more and more of his own bullshit. So he's the kind of homeless man that's hanging out, like, behind the gas station, asking for change, and he's like, hey, did you hear, you know, Elvis? I'm the one that taught Elvis how to sing. And they're like, yeah, sure you did, old man. Here you go, have a quarter. Ah, thank you. Yeah, that's cool. I was gonna be president, except John F. Kennedy, he came in and he got the nomination, but I was gonna be president. It's like, okay, sure you are, buddy. You know, that's the kind of guy Usopp is in this version of reality. What's even funnier, though, is that in this version of reality, I like to think that the rest of the crew are perfectly fine. You know, the rest of the crew are like really badass older pirates, right? It's like if Usopp, like when Usopp left the crew and he just never amounted to anything. Like I did a whole video on that too, like what if Usopp never rejoined the crew at the end of Enies Lobby. I had a really positive outlook for Usopp in that video though. I figured like, okay, if he's not going to rejoin the crew, he's probably just going to go with Oimo and Kashi to the land of giants, to Elbaf, you know, and he was learning all the stuff about Elbaf and train there. And the way I viewed it was, eventually he would join up with the crew again, but in the new world. Usopp would train on Elbaf for like 2 years or whatever, and then join up with the crew later when they most needed him. That's what I viewed. Like he was going to become an adventurer in his own right. But this version is if like after the events of, you know, Enies Lobby, he was just so dejected. He just like, I can't see my crew again. I don't even want to go to Elbaf. I'm worthless. I'm nothing. You know, just being basically becoming depressed and just awashed in his own pessimism. And he just stays in Water 7 and just lives there in like the slums and is just like drinking, just like I don't know where my life's even going anymore. Like that's the place he's at here, you know. And it's actually really sad when you think of it from that perspective. And then just over the years he slowly begins to crack and just start believing in his own lies and just like, yeah, Luffy, king of the you heard Luffy was king of the pirates? Like, yeah, Luffy's king of the pirates. I taught him everything I know. You know, this is how I hold beer bottles, because, you know, I don't drink. And I was like, yeah, this is how I hold beer. Yeah, Luffy, king of the pirates. Sip, sip. You know, like, yeah. So that's pretty sad, but that's kind of the point of these. It's just like the alternate universe is always really sad and depressing. All right, but that's not the route we're probably going to take. We're definitely going to take the grizzled adventurer route. You know, traveling and then getting all access to whole new weapons, maybe going to Elbaf, learning some technology there. You know, maybe I just bought this the other day because, you know, I'm big into D&D right now, so I've been reading a bunch of different campaigns. Like, this happens, you know, like freaking Storm King's Thunder or whatever. They start learning some new giant tech and stuff like that. I actually haven't read it yet, but it looks cool, right? It's blue. The 99% of the reason I bought this was because it was blue and I liked the cover. Okay, so anyway, but yeah, I could see Usopp doing that. Obviously, spending time at home with Kaya, like he has like a childhood sweetheart kind of at home for him. You know, I could see Luffy, you know, Luffy has people at home for him, like Dadan and everybody, and there's Garp, and he knows Sabo is alive right now, but I think Luffy is going to be the kind of guy he's never going to be happy, like, settling down in that respect. Like, as for the other Straw Hats, you know, like, we got Zoro, who, I mean, like, Tashigi, kind of, maybe, you know, but Zoro, I think, also might just be he might spend more time just training and traveling the world again, kind of, maybe necessarily not going back to being a bounty hunter, but just traveling the world and just learning new sword skills and things like that. Sanji, of course, has the Baratier, Zeph, and, you know, his family's there. Nami's got Nojiko and Genzo, Genzo's basically like Nami's adoptive father, kind of. Brook has Laboon and Crocus, so I could say Brook, you know, spending most of his time with Crocus and Laboon at the Twin Capes, making up for lost time. Frankie's got the Frankie family back at Water 7. Those are basically his family. Robin... Oh man, Robin really doesn't have anybody, does she? That's also kind of sad, you know? Maybe Robin and Zoro would just travel the seas together, or Robin would go back with Frankie or something. Frankie x Robin shippers, I don't know. Chopper's, of course, got Dr. Kureha and Dalton and everybody back at Drum Island that he would love to see again, right? But Luffy, I could see just, you know, he just travels the seas. And then Usopp, though, he has a childhood sweetheart. He has Kaya back at home, and, you know, even though, you know, Oda doesn't focus too much on the romance between the Straw Hats, I think in that one particular instance, Usopp's going to, like, very obviously get married to Kaya by the end of the story. Like, I think in that way, it doesn't have to go overly romantic with it. It doesn't have to be the moment where, like, Usopp comes back from the adventure and he's all ripped and everything like that, and Kaya's just like, and then... and then it cuts to the next morning and they're in bed together. It doesn't have to go that. It could just be like he comes home and waves to Kaya and they hug, and then cut to like their wedding a few years later and all the Straw Hats are there like, congratulations, you know, something like that. I could see that happening. Okay, so anyway, yeah, let me know below what you think about Usopp, how he's going to, you know, travel the world, maybe become an adventurer, or just be the old homeless crazy guy out behind the 7-Eleven. So let me know about that below. Tekking signing out. Later, everybody.